Welcome. Tonight, we invite you into a peaceful corner of the universe. Victor von Doom was born in the small Eastern European country of Latveria. His mother, Cynthia, was a sorceress who had escaped from a tribe of gypsies. His father, a healer, was a well-respected man who was tragically murdered when Victor was just a child. This early loss would leave a profound mark on Victor, shaping his views on mortality and the fragility of life. Young Victor grew up in a household where he was exposed to both the scientific teachings of his father and the mystical arts of his mother. His childhood was filled with contradictions: love and loss, science and magic, ambition and fear. In his formative years, Victor was exceptionally intelligent, showing a talent for both science and the arcane arts. However, his brilliance was matched by his arrogance. He believed that the world was filled with incompetence and ignorance, and that only he had the vision to correct the flaws of humanity. Driven by a thirst for knowledge and a desire to transcend human limitations, Victor became obsessed with the idea of harnessing both technology and magic. This obsession eventually led him to the prestigious Empire State University in New York City. While at university, Victor quickly distinguished himself as a prodigy. He immersed himself in the study of engineering and the sciences, forming a bond with Reed Richards, a fellow student who would later become Mr. Fantastic of the Fantastic Four. The two shared a deep passion for science, yet their approaches differed vastly. While Reed was driven by altruism and the hope of bettering humanity, Victor was focused on personal power and the idea of ruling over others to create a better world through force. This philosophical rift between them would grow over time, culminating in a rivalry that defined their respective destinies. Victor's arrogance, however, led to his downfall during an experiment involving a dimensional gateway. In his desire to prove his superiority, he ignored the warnings of his professors and colleagues. The experiment went horribly wrong, resulting in a massive explosion that left Victor scarred and disfigured. This event not only physically altered him, as he was left with a mask that concealed his face, but it also ignited a fury within him. He blamed Reed Richards for the failure, convinced that had Richards not mocked him or challenged his methods, he would have succeeded. Fleeing from the university, Victor returned to Latveria, where he began to plot his revenge. He sought out ancient texts and arcane artifacts, diving deep into the dark arts. Through relentless study and experimentation, he became a master of sorcery, blending it with his already formidable skills in technology. He designed his own armor, a marvel of engineering that enhanced his physical abilities and protected him from harm. The armor became both a tool of power and a symbol of his new identity as Dr. Doom. Upon returning to Latveria, Victor found the country in turmoil. A corrupt dictator had seized control, and the people lived in fear and oppression. Rather than liberate his homeland, Victor chose to seize power for himself. He staged a coup, using his technological prowess and magical abilities to overthrow the dictator. He established himself as the ruler of Latveria, adopting the title of Doom. Under his reign, the country saw advancements in technology and infrastructure, yet the price was steep. Doom ruled with an iron fist, imposing strict laws and suppressing any dissent. To him, the ends justified the means. Doom's rule was characterized by a singular vision: to protect Latveria from the chaos of the outside world and to elevate it to greatness. He viewed himself as a benevolent dictator, believing that his iron grip on power was necessary for the good of his people. Despite his brutal methods, the citizens of Latveria saw him as a savior, a force that provided stability in an unstable world. He constructed grandiose monuments to his power and intelligence, all while manipulating the media to craft a narrative that painted him as a heroic figure. However, Doom's ambitions did not stop at the borders of Latveria. He sought to expand his influence across Europe and eventually the world. He believed that he could bring order to the chaos of humanity, that he was destined to rule. This ambition brought him into conflict with many heroes, particularly the Avengers and the Fantastic Four, but at this stage, he was primarily focused on consolidating power and eliminating any threats to his reign. Through his early years as Dr. Doom, Victor Von Doom evolved from a brilliant young man driven by tragedy to a formidable ruler who believed that he was the rightful king of the world. His combination of science and sorcery made him a unique threat, one that would haunt not only the Avengers but the entire Marvel Universe for years to come. Doom's path was set. He would become a master manipulator, a strategist whose every move was calculated, and a villain whose legacy would echo throughout the ages. After seizing control of Latveria, Victor Von Doom wasted no time in establishing his rule. With his advanced intellect and mastery of both science and sorcery, he quickly transformed the nation into a formidable power in Europe. Doom's reign was marked by technological advancements and military strength, but it was also characterized by an oppressive regime that allowed no dissent. He fortified Latveria's borders with state-of-the-art defenses and a formidable military, ensuring that no foreign invader could threaten his newly established kingdom. Doom implemented strict laws to maintain order, controlling the populace through fear and intimidation. He employed an extensive network of spies and informants to root out any potential threats to his authority. Public dissent was met with swift punishment, and those who dared to oppose him found themselves imprisoned or worse. Under Doom's rule, Latveria underwent rapid industrialization. Factories sprung up across the landscape, and the country became known for its cutting-edge technology. Doom's inventions, fueled by his understanding of advanced science and sorcery, were utilized for both civilian and military purposes. He designed powerful weaponry and developed innovative technologies that placed Latveria at the forefront of global power dynamics. The citizens, though fearful, were also impressed by the advances that came under Doom's governance. Roads were paved, hospitals were built, and education was prioritized, albeit under a curriculum that glorified their ruler. Yet, despite the advancements, Doom's paranoia and desire for control grew. He surrounded himself with loyalists and sycophants, carefully selecting individuals who would not challenge his authority. His former allies, like Reed Richards, became his most bitter enemies. In his mind, any hint of rebellion or challenge to his power was intolerable. Doom often used public executions to remind the people of the consequences of defiance. These displays of power ensured that fear ran deep within the hearts of Latverians, solidifying his control. Doom's aspirations, however, extended beyond the borders of Latveria. He dreamed of a unified Europe under his rule, envisioning a world where chaos was eliminated and order was imposed through his iron grip. To this end, he began plotting against neighboring countries, looking for opportunities to expand his influence. Using his formidable intellect, he devised elaborate schemes to destabilize governments and manipulate leaders. He cultivated alliances with various factions, offering them his technological advancements in exchange for loyalty. His quest for power soon caught the attention of the world's heroes, particularly the Avengers and the Fantastic Four. These heroes recognized Doom as a significant threat to global security. The Fantastic Four, having faced him in the past, were well aware of his cunning and capabilities. Reed Richards, in particular, viewed Doom not just as a foe but as a tragic figure who had lost his way. The tensions between Doom and the heroes were palpable, setting the stage for inevitable confrontations. One of Doom's most significant moves came when he initiated an invasion of the neighboring nation of Latveria's borderlands. Under the guise of liberating the oppressed people, he sent in his military forces equipped with advanced weaponry. The world was shocked by his audacity, and the Avengers swiftly mobilized to confront this new crisis. They saw this as not only a humanitarian issue but a direct challenge to their ideals of justice and peace. In a decisive battle, the Avengers engaged Doom's forces in the skies above Latveria. The clash was epic, with Iron Man and Thor leading the charge against Doom's armored troops. The battle showcased not only the technological might of Doom's inventions, but also the heroism of the Avengers, who fought to protect innocent lives. Amidst the chaos, Doom himself descended onto the battlefield, clad in his menacing armor, directing his forces with ruthless precision. He unleashed devastating attacks, demonstrating his mastery of technology and magic as he conjured bolts of energy and summoned mechanical minions. The battle raged on, with casualties on both sides. Doom, consumed by rage and the desire to prove his superiority, confronted the Avengers directly. In a showdown with Thor, Doom attempted to wield his sorcery against the god of thunder. The clash was fierce, with lightning crackling and energy pulsing as the two titans battled for supremacy. Doom's armor absorbed much of Thor's attacks, reflecting his mastery of technology and magic. He fought with the ferocity of a cornered beast, unwilling to yield to anyone he deemed beneath him. Despite his technological prowess and cunning, Doom ultimately underestimated the resolve of the Avengers. As the battle escalated, Reed Richards devised a plan to counter Doom's advanced weaponry, using his intellect to exploit a weakness in Doom's armor. This moment of realization signified the unyielding spirit of heroism that the Avengers embodied. Working together, they coordinated their attacks, distracting Doom long enough for Reed to enact his strategy. In the end, while the Avengers managed to thwart Doom's immediate plans for conquest, the victory came at a high cost. The battle left a scar on the landscape of Latveria and reinforced Doom's belief that the world was filled with incompetence. He retreated to his castle, vowing that he would return stronger and more determined. This defeat only fueled his obsession with power, leading him to delve deeper into both science and sorcery to seek the ultimate weapon that could ensure his domination. As he surveyed the damage from his castle, Victor Von Doom felt a mix of rage and resolve. His dreams of conquest may have been thwarted for now, but he swore that he would not rest until he had proven himself as the ruler of the world. He began to plot again, using his vast resources to gather intelligence and prepare for the next encounter with the Avengers. In his mind, the game was far from over. Doom's saga as a master manipulator, a tragic ruler, and a relentless foe had only just begun, setting the stage for future confrontations that would shape the very fabric of the Marvel Universe. After his previous defeat at the hands of the Avengers, Victor Von Doom retreated to his castle in Latveria, consumed by a desire for revenge and a need to assert his dominance over the world. He was determined to reclaim his place as the most formidable force on the planet. The loss only deepened his resolve, and he spent long hours in solitude, plotting and scheming. Within the dark confines of his castle, surrounded by flickering candles and ancient tomes, he delved deeper into the arcane arts, desperate to enhance his powers. Doom began to study ancient sorceries that had long been forgotten, seeking forbidden knowledge that could grant him the strength to conquer not just Latveria, but the entire world. Among the tomes he discovered was an ancient grimoire said to contain powerful spells that could manipulate time and reality itself. Intrigued, Doom studied the rituals meticulously, often losing track of time as he became engrossed in the mysticism and power they promised. He believed that if he could control time, he could rewrite his past failures and ensure his future victories. The allure of rewriting history became a consuming obsession, further blurring the line between his scientific pursuits and his growing fascination with magic. As he delved into the grimoire, Doom also sought out powerful artifacts that could amplify his abilities. He dispatched loyal agents to scour the world for these relics, promising them riches and power in exchange for their loyalty. With each successful acquisition, Doom felt himself growing closer to his goal. He surrounded himself with powerful sorcerers and scientists, forming a council that would assist him in his quest for domination. He sought out the most feared and respected figures in the realm of magic, coercing them into servitude through intimidation or manipulation. While Doom was engrossed in his pursuits, the Avengers were on high alert. Their encounter with Doom had shaken them, highlighting the need for constant vigilance against threats that lurked in the shadows. The team held numerous meetings to discuss strategies and contingency plans in case Doom made another move. They knew that the villain was not one to be underestimated. His cunning intellect and resourcefulness made him a formidable adversary. Doom's efforts eventually bore fruit when he uncovered an ancient artifact known as the Heart of the Omniverse. This relic was said to have the power to manipulate reality on a grand scale, allowing its wielder to reshape existence itself. The artifact was hidden in a temple located in a remote part of the world, heavily guarded by mystical forces. Doom, driven by his relentless ambition, decided to undertake the quest personally, knowing that failure was not an option. He gathered his most loyal followers and set off to claim the Heart of the Omniverse. The journey was fraught with peril. As Doom and his entourage approached the temple, they encountered numerous challenges. Traps designed to deter intruders, guardians of ancient magic, and puzzles that tested their resolve. Yet Doom was undeterred. He used his mastery of sorcery to bypass these obstacles, demonstrating his cunning and power. His followers were both awed and terrified by his abilities, realizing they were in the presence of a truly formidable ruler. Finally, after overcoming countless trials, Doom reached the inner sanctum of the temple. There, he beheld the Heart of the Omniverse, a pulsating gem radiating energy that seemed to resonate with the very fabric of reality. He reached out to claim the artifact, but the temple's defenses activated, unleashing a torrent of energy that threatened to consume him. Drawing upon his mastery of sorcery and technology, Doom managed to stabilize himself, wrestling the heart into his grasp. With the artifact now in his possession, Doom felt an unprecedented surge of power coursing through him. The heart granted him abilities beyond comprehension, allowing him to manipulate time and space. He envisioned a future where he ruled over all, free from the interference of the Avengers and any who would dare oppose him. Yet, with such power came the temptation to change his past mistakes, to rewrite history in his favor. In that moment of temptation, he made a fateful decision. Doom began experimenting with the heart, crafting intricate spells that warped reality. He attempted to erase the memories of his defeats, altering the perceptions of those who had wronged him. He envisioned a world where he had never failed, where he was universally revered and obeyed. However, as he wielded the heart's power, he soon discovered that manipulating reality came with unforeseen consequences. The fabric of time began to unravel, creating ripples that affected the past, present, and future. The Avengers, sensing a disturbance in reality, sprang into action. They gathered intelligence and discovered the source of the anomaly. Reed Richards, haunted by his past encounters with Doom, immediately recognized the danger posed by the Heart of the Omniverse. He knew that if left unchecked, Doom's tampering with reality could lead to catastrophic results, not only for Latveria but for the entire world. The team prepared to confront Doom once again, knowing this battle would be unlike any they had faced before. As the Avengers approached Latveria, they found themselves drawn into a distorted reality, a reflection of Doom's twisted desires. The landscape around them shifted and warped, creating illusions of past battles and fears that each hero had faced. They fought through visions of their own failures and insecurities, struggling to regain their footing in this chaotic realm. Victor Von Doom, now fully aware of the power he wielded, reveled in his newfound abilities. He conjured manifestations of his foes' greatest fears, pitting them against their darkest memories. He believed he could finally break the Avengers, turning their strengths into weaknesses. In his arrogance, he underestimated the resilience of his enemies. Despite the illusions that clouded their minds, the Avengers united, determined to break free from the chains of Doom's reality. Led by Reed Richards, they worked together to dispel the illusions, relying on their bond as a team. Each Avenger confronted their fears, drawing strength from their shared experiences. Captain America inspired his teammates with his unwavering spirit, while Thor's resolve as a god of thunder invigorated them. One by one, they shattered the illusions until they reached the heart of the distortion, the very essence of Doom's manipulation. Doom, realizing that his plan was unraveling, confronted the Avengers directly, now cloaked in the immense power of the heart of the Omniverse. He believed that this would finally be his moment to defeat them. The clash between Doom and the Avengers was monumental, as the fabric of reality itself crackled and warped around them. They fought not just for their own existence, but for the stability of the universe. As the battle raged, Doom unleashed waves of energy that threatened to tear apart the very essence of reality. The Avengers fought valiantly, utilizing their combined powers to counter Doom's overwhelming assault. Reed Richards, using his intellect, formulated a plan to counteract the Heart's influence. He realized that the Heart's power could not be fully controlled. It was a force that could consume its wielder if not respected. In a desperate move, Reed devised a way to harness the Heart's energy and turn it against Doom. As the Avengers worked together, they managed to channel their abilities into a cohesive force. With a final push, they unleashed a torrent of energy that resonated with the Heart. The resulting clash sent shockwaves through the realm, shattering the illusions that had held them captive. In that moment of chaos, the heart of the Omniverse began to destabilize. Doom, caught in the backlash of his own ambitions, felt the reality he sought to control slip from his grasp. The energy surged, engulfing him as the fabric of time and space tore apart around him. Doom realized too late that his desire for power had led him to this moment of ruin. As the dust settled, the Avengers emerged victorious, though the battle had taken its toll. The heart of the Omniverse lay in ruins, its power dissipated into the ether. Victor Von Doom, once the master of technology and sorcery, was left defeated and stripped of the artifact that had promised him ultimate control. The echoes of his ambition faded into silence as he retreated, vowing to rise again. With the reality restored, the Avengers surveyed the aftermath of the battle. Though they had thwarted Doom's immediate plans, they understood that his ambition and intellect would ensure that he would return. They remained vigilant, knowing that Victor Von Doom was a force of nature, a villain whose story was far from over. The conflict had deepened the enmity between Doom and the Avengers, setting the stage for future confrontations that would test their resolve and the very essence of their heroism. In the aftermath of the catastrophic confrontation with Victor Von Doom, the Avengers took a moment to regroup and assess the damage. The echoes of their battle still reverberated through the landscape of Latveria, a land scarred by the energies unleashed in the struggle against Doom's ambitions. Although they had succeeded in thwarting his immediate plans, the air was thick with the knowledge that their foe was not easily defeated. Victor Von Doom was relentless, and his genius was only matched by his capacity for vengeance. As the team returned to their headquarters, they felt the weight of their recent encounter. Reed Richards led the discussion, emphasizing the necessity of preparing for Doom's inevitable return. The members of the Avengers, Iron Man, Thor, Captain America, Black Widow, and Hawkeye, listened intently, knowing that they had survived a storm but that another was brewing on the horizon. Reed shared his concerns about the ramifications of Doom's use of the heart of the Omniverse and the instability it had created in reality itself. The dangers of time manipulation and the unraveling of cosmic threads were not mere theoretical concerns. They were now a pressing reality. In the following days, Reed immersed himself in research, examining the nature of the heart and the dimensions it had touched. He consulted ancient texts and technology, desperate to find a way to understand Doom's methods and anticipate his next move. His dedication consumed him, leading him to push his limits. The other Avengers, witnessing Reed's intensity, rallied around him, offering their support and skills. They knew that understanding Doom's plans would be vital to counteracting his future schemes. While Reed was absorbed in his studies, news began to trickle in from across the globe. Reports surfaced of strange occurrences and anomalous events linked to unexplained phenomena. People vanishing without a trace, temporal disturbances, and pockets of reality where the laws of physics seemed to bend. Each report bore the signature of Victor Von Doom, his shadow lurking over the world once again. In a nearby city, a series of unexplained power outages and strange weather patterns drew the attention of the Avengers. Hawkeye and Black Widow were dispatched to investigate, infiltrating the area under the cover of darkness. As they moved through the streets, they witnessed the chaos unfolding. A rift in reality, pulsating with energy and crackling with power, was at the center of the disturbances. Citizens panicked as bizarre creatures emerged from the rift, manifestations of Doom's manipulations that now threatened innocent lives. The two heroes sprang into action, using their skills to protect the populace and contain the chaos. Hawkeye's sharp aim and Black Widow's agility allowed them to hold the creatures at bay, but they were soon overwhelmed. Realizing that the situation was escalating, they called for backup, urging the rest of the Avengers to join them. Just as the tide seemed to turn against them, Iron Man soared into the fray, unleashing repulsor blasts that pushed back the monstrous entities. Thor followed closely, summoning lightning that illuminated the night sky, and Captain America charged into battle, rallying the citizens to safety. With the combined might of the Avengers, they managed to close the rift temporarily. However, the experience left them shaken. The creatures had been but a taste of Doom's capabilities, and the reality-altering disturbances hinted at something more sinister. After the immediate threat was contained, the Avengers regrouped to discuss the implications of what they had just faced. Reed, upon reviewing the reports of the rift and its effects, theorized that Doom was experimenting with portals, drawing entities from alternate dimensions. He surmised that Doom was attempting to harness powers beyond his own to assert his dominance over the Earth. This revelation led to heightened urgency among the Avengers. They understood that they could not merely react to Doom's assaults. They needed to proactively counter his schemes. The Avengers split into teams, each assigned a specific task. Thor and Iron Man would track down and contain any further rifts. Captain America and Black Widow worked on intelligence gathering, seeking to uncover any remaining loyalists who might still aid Doom. Hawkeye was tasked with scouring the city for evidence of Doom's influence, piecing together the elements that would lead them closer to his lair. During their investigation, Captain America and Black Widow uncovered a group of Doom's loyalists in hiding. These followers were fervently dedicated to their leader, believing that he would ultimately bring about a new world order under his rule. With careful planning, they managed to infiltrate the hideout, gathering information that revealed Doom's growing ambitions and the experiments he was conducting. The intelligence painted a clear picture of a villain who was not merely seeking revenge but was actively working to reshape the world according to his own vision. Meanwhile, Thor and Iron Man faced numerous challenges as they dealt with the consequences of the rifts. Each rift that opened was a gateway to chaos, and the creatures that emerged were often hostile and unpredictable. They fought bravely, utilizing their strengths to combat the otherworldly beings that spilled into their world. Their battles were fierce, showcasing their camaraderie and resilience, but it became evident that the situation was spiraling out of control. With each encounter, the stakes grew higher, and they feared the damage Doom could inflict if he succeeded in his plans. In the heart of Latveria, Doom continued his machinations. He delved deeper into the dark arts, fueled by his recent failures. His goal was to amplify his powers through the merging of technology and sorcery. He began experimenting with devices that could harness the very fabric of reality, attempting to stabilize the chaotic energies he had previously unleashed. With the heart of the Omniverse destroyed, he sought out alternatives, including ancient artifacts that would give him the leverage he needed to complete his ascension. The loyalists around Doom were eager to assist, believing fervently in his vision. They worked tirelessly to gather resources, tapping into underground networks that provided them with the necessary tools and information. Doom's charisma and intelligence drew them in, igniting their ambition and desire for power. They constructed devices that could help him channel energy from the dimensional rifts, hoping to empower their leader further. As the Avengers continued their investigations, Reed Richards made a breakthrough. He discovered that the disturbances were not random. They followed a pattern that could lead them directly to Doom's base of operations. Armed with this knowledge, they set a plan into motion to confront him before he could unleash his full potential. They understood that the longer they waited, the more dangerous he would become. The Avengers gathered for a final meeting, strategizing their approach to Doom. Reed outlined a plan that involved confronting him directly in Latveria, hoping to catch him off guard. The team prepared for battle, knowing they were stepping into the lion's den. They equipped themselves with advanced technology and powerful artifacts to counter Doom's sorcery, relying on their teamwork and individual strengths to face the threat. As they approached Latveria, the landscape grew darker, the air thick with tension and the remnants of Doom's chaotic energy. The skies shifted ominously, a reflection of the turmoil brewing within. The Avengers pressed forward, united in purpose, ready to confront the mastermind who had challenged them time and again. They infiltrated Doom's castle, navigating through intricate defenses and obstacles designed to deter intruders. Inside the castle, the atmosphere was heavy with a sense of impending doom. They moved cautiously, knowing that every corner could hide a trap or a foe. Doom, aware of their presence, prepared for the impending clash. He had spent years honing his strategies, and he was ready to unleash everything he had. The air crackled with anticipation as the Avengers confronted their nemesis, determined to put an end to his schemes once and for all. The final showdown was fierce and epic, a clash of titans as the Avengers faced Victor Von Doom. The castle shook as their powers collided, energies lighting up the night sky. Doom, fueled by desperation and ambition, tapped into the arcane forces he had been cultivating. The battle raged, showcasing the immense power of both the Avengers and Doom. Each hero fought with their all, drawing on their strengths and strategies honed through countless battles. As the conflict reached its peak, Doom unleashed a torrent of energy aimed at the Avengers, but they countered with unity and resolve. They had learned from their previous encounters with him, each hero adapting to the unique challenges he posed. In the midst of chaos, Reed discovered the source of Doom's newfound power, a device that siphoned energy from the rifts. In a critical moment, he devised a plan to disrupt it. In a coordinated effort, the Avengers launched their final assault, combining their strengths to destabilize Doom's device. The energy it siphoned backfired, sending a shockwave through the castle. In the aftermath, the rift energies began to collapse inward, drawing Doom's attention. The heroes seized this opportunity, launching an all-out attack on him. Doom, caught in the maelstrom of his own making, struggled to maintain control. The castle began to crumble, and reality warped around them. But as the dust settled, the Avengers stood resolute. They knew this was not just a battle for their lives. It was a battle for the fate of reality itself. With one final surge of energy, they unleashed a powerful blast that struck Doom, causing the energies around them to explode. As the dust cleared, Doom was left weakened. The ambitions that had driven him reduced to echoes of his former glory. The rifts he had created began to close, sealing the chaos he had unleashed. Though he had been defeated, the remnants of his genius lingered in the air, a stark reminder that Victor Von Doom was a force that would never be truly vanquished. As the Avengers regrouped and assessed the damage, they understood that while they had succeeded in stopping Doom's immediate threat, the shadow of his ambitions loomed large. They were left with the knowledge that the battle against him would continue, and they needed to remain vigilant. They had forged their bonds through this trial, and though the road ahead would be fraught with challenges, they stood united, ready to face whatever darkness lay ahead. The legacy of Victor Von Doom was far from over, but for now, the Avengers had triumphed, defending not just their world but the fabric of reality itself. In the wake of their recent confrontation with Victor Von Doom, the Avengers faced the daunting task of healing both their world and themselves. The remnants of the chaos that had erupted in Latveria lingered, a stark reminder of the thin veil separating order from pandemonium. Reed Richards, having narrowly grasped the chaos of the rift energies, understood that the threat posed by Doom was not extinguished but merely transformed. They had stopped one of his plans, but his ambition would never truly rest. As they regrouped in their headquarters, a somber atmosphere enveloped the team, each member aware of the looming shadows cast by their foe. Reed gathered the Avengers for a strategic meeting, outlining their next steps. They had learned valuable lessons from their encounters with Doom, particularly the extent of his reach and his relentless pursuit of power. It was clear that they could not afford to wait for Doom to make his next move. They needed to proactively counter any remnants of his influence and anticipate his future actions. Reed proposed that they delve deeper into understanding the nature of Doom's sorcery and technology, seeking out ancient artifacts that could offer insights into his capabilities. The team agreed that they needed to separate and investigate different leads. Captain America and Black Widow set out to track down former members of Doom's loyalist network, hoping to uncover any lingering threats or new conspiracies that might be brewing. They moved with purpose, utilizing their combat experience and skills in espionage to infiltrate various groups and gather intelligence. Meanwhile, Iron Man and Thor teamed up to investigate the technology that had powered Doom's devices. They scoured the remnants of the chaos for clues, searching for any trace of the machinery or artifacts that could have been left behind. Their quest took them to the hidden corners of the world, where remnants of advanced technology and arcane power intersected. They encountered hostile factions attempting to claim the spoils of Doom's failures, leading to intense skirmishes that tested their resolve. As their investigations progressed, they uncovered a web of connections between Doom's loyalists and various powerful entities, seeking to fill the power vacuum left in his wake. It became apparent that Doom's ambitions had inspired a surge of ambition among his followers, as well as new players who wished to capitalize on the chaos. This revelation intensified the urgency of the Avengers' mission, as they recognized that the threat they faced was evolving. In a separate endeavor, Reed Richards, with the assistance of the Scarlet Witch, began to study the magical artifacts that had been linked to Doom's power. They explored the ancient tomes and relics from various dimensions, seeking to understand how Doom had woven technology with mysticism. Scarlet Witch, with her unique abilities, probed deeper into the energies surrounding these artifacts, drawing upon her own connection to magic. Their research led them to the discovery of a powerful artifact known as the Dark Heart of Latveria, said to hold immense magical properties capable of altering reality itself. It was rumored to have been hidden deep within the bowels of Doom's castle, protected by powerful enchantments and traps. Reed theorized that if they could locate and neutralize the Darkheart, they could significantly weaken any future schemes Doom might devise. United by their purpose, the Avengers combined their findings. Captain America and Black Widow returned with intelligence on a secret meeting of Doom's former allies, plotting to reclaim their power. Iron Man and Thor provided insights into the technology they had encountered, connecting it with the mystical energies identified by Reed and Scarlet Witch. Together, they formed a comprehensive plan that involved locating the Darkheart and confronting the remnants of Doom's followers in a decisive move. The team prepared for a dual operation. While one faction would infiltrate the secret meeting of Doom's former loyalists, the other would venture into the depths of Latveria to locate and secure the Darkheart. They understood the risks involved but knew that failing to act could lead to dire consequences. Captain America led the mission against the Loyalists, drawing upon his leadership skills to guide the team. They utilized stealth and strategy to navigate through Latveria, infiltrating the meeting undetected. As they gathered intelligence on the conspiracy being forged, they listened intently to the discussions among Doom's former followers, many of whom expressed their desire for vengeance against the Avengers. They spoke of uniting their forces under a new leader, one who could rise from the ashes of Doom's defeat. Just as they gathered enough evidence to expose the plot, they were discovered. A fierce battle erupted as the Loyalists, fueled by their anger and desire for power, fought back against the Avengers. Captain America and Black Widow led the charge, utilizing their combat skills to subdue their foes. Iron Man arrived shortly after, providing aerial support and firepower, while Thor unleashed his might against the oncoming horde. The clash was intense, showcasing the determination of the Avengers to prevent the resurgence of Doom's influence. They fought valiantly, turning the tide in their favor. With their combined strengths, they were able to capture several of Doom's loyalists, extracting crucial information about their plans and intentions. Meanwhile, the other half of the team, led by Reed and Scarlet Witch, descended into the dark recesses of Doom's castle. They navigated through treacherous traps and ancient wards, relying on their combined intellect and magical prowess to bypass the dangers. As they descended deeper, the atmosphere thickened with a palpable energy, hinting at the Darkheart's presence. Finally, they reached a vast chamber adorned with ancient runes and sigils. At the center lay the Darkheart, pulsating with energy and exuding an ominous aura. Reed approached cautiously, utilizing his scientific acumen to analyze the artifact's properties. Scarlet, which extended her powers, sensing the energies surrounding it, identifying both the danger it posed and the potential it held. As they prepared to secure the artifact, the ground trembled, and the chamber began to shake violently. Doom had set a fail-safe mechanism in place, and the walls started to close in. In a race against time, Reed and Scarlet Witch worked together to neutralize the traps and stabilize the chamber. Utilizing their combined abilities, they managed to secure the Darkheart, but the escape was fraught with peril. The ground quaked as they navigated through collapsing walls and powerful energy surges. Reed's intellect and Scarlet Witch's magic guided them to safety just as the chamber imploded, sealing away the remnants of Doom's dark legacy. As they regrouped outside the castle, they understood the significance of what they had accomplished. They had not only secured a powerful artifact, but had also deprived their enemy of a crucial source of power. Reed initiated a plan to contain the Darkheart, ensuring that it would not fall into the wrong hands. With the Avengers reunited, they returned to their headquarters, reflecting on the journey they had undertaken and the challenges that lay ahead. The Loyalists they had captured provided valuable intelligence, revealing a larger conspiracy in motion, one that linked to powerful figures across the globe, all seeking to exploit the chaos created by Doom's ambitions. In the days that followed, the Avengers prepared for the repercussions of their actions. The information gleaned from the Loyalists exposed a network of villainous alliances forming in the void left by Doom's defeat. They understood that while they had thwarted Doom's immediate plans, they now faced a new wave of challenges, fueled by those who sought to claim his legacy. Reed and Scarlet, which continued to study the Darkheart, delving into its mysteries and attempting to understand its connection to the rift energies that had plagued the world. As they worked, they recognized the delicate balance between technology and magic, realizing that each had the potential to either empower or destroy. The Avengers had secured a significant victory, but their vigilance was more critical than ever. They had no illusions about the consequences of their actions, understanding that the fight against evil was a continuous battle, and the legacy of Victor Von Doom had only begun to cast its shadow over the world. As they prepared to face the challenges that lay ahead, the Avengers stood united, determined to confront the rising tide of darkness and protect the world from the legacy of their greatest foe. Their bond had been forged in the fires of conflict, and they were ready to take on whatever new threats emerged from the shadows. With the Darkheart secured and the remnants of Victor Von Doom's loyalists captured, the Avengers turned their focus to the growing network of villains and power-hungry factions eager to fill the void left by Doom's temporary defeat. The intelligence gathered from the captured loyalists revealed alarming connections to powerful organizations and influential individuals who sought to claim their own piece of Doom's legacy. The stakes were rising, and the team realized that the battle against evil was far from over. In the days following their successful infiltration of the Loyalists' meeting, the Avengers convened in their headquarters to analyze the information. Reed Richards led the discussion, projecting a holographic map of the world that displayed various locations tied to the intelligence they had uncovered. Red flags indicated spots where unusual activity had been reported, as well as areas where the Loyalists had established contacts. As they studied the map, Natasha Romanoff, known as Black Widow, pointed out a pattern emerging from the data. Many of the factions were attempting to consolidate power and resources, forming a coalition that could rival even the might of the Avengers. This coalition included remnants from various criminal organizations, mercenary groups, and even some disgraced former heroes seeking redemption through villainy. Each faction seemed to be plotting a resurgence, with plans to acquire advanced technology and arcane artifacts. The discussions soon led to speculation about who could be behind this coalition. Tony Stark, ever the strategist, suggested that someone was likely orchestrating these movements from the shadows. With Doom's cunning intellect and ambition gone, it stood to reason that another powerful figure would rise to fill that role. They needed to discover who this puppet master was before the situation escalated further. Iron Man proposed utilizing their resources to infiltrate these organizations. Captain America emphasized the importance of caution and suggested forming small, specialized teams to avoid drawing too much attention. The Avengers were eager to uncover the identity of this new threat, but they needed to approach their missions with the utmost care, given the complex web of villains they were now dealing with. Black Widow volunteered to lead a covert team to investigate a rumored meeting of the Coalition's members in a remote location, a former stronghold of one of Doom's allies. This stronghold, hidden within the mountains, was said to be an ideal site for clandestine operations. The team would consist of herself, Hawkeye, and the Winter Soldier, relying on their stealth and combat expertise to gather intelligence. Meanwhile, Thor, Iron Man, and the Scarlet Witch would head to a tech conglomerate known for its ties to Doom's enterprises. They had received intel that the corporation was in discussions with several key players in the criminal underworld, possibly seeking to provide advanced weaponry and technology to bolster their newfound coalition. Iron Man's technological expertise would be invaluable in this mission, allowing them to extract critical information without being detected. The Avengers set their plans in motion, splitting into their designated teams and preparing for the challenges that lay ahead. As Black Widow's team made their way to the hidden stronghold, they utilized stealth to navigate the rugged terrain, avoiding detection by any lookout or surveillance equipment that might be in place. They arrived under the cover of darkness, finding the area heavily fortified, with guards positioned strategically around the entrance. Using her skills in espionage, Black Widow led the team in a silent takedown of the guards, moving quickly and efficiently. Once inside, they discovered a dimly lit chamber filled with various criminal elements gathered to discuss their plans. The atmosphere was tense, with murmurs of ambition and revenge echoing through the air. The trio positioned themselves strategically to overhear the discussions. They soon learned that the coalition was planning a series of coordinated strikes against various heroes and organizations, aiming to demonstrate their power and instill fear in the hearts of their enemies. They were seeking to capture or eliminate key individuals who could stand in their way, revealing a list of targets that included prominent heroes and influential figures in the world. As they continued to eavesdrop, Black Widow and her team recognized some familiar names among the attendees, former adversaries of the Avengers, including the likes of the Enchantress and the Mad Thinker. It was clear that this coalition was more formidable than they had anticipated. The villains were united by a common goal: to restore what they perceived as the rightful order of power in the world, with them at the helm. Just as Black Widow was about to relay the information to the rest of the Avengers, an unexpected figure emerged from the shadows. The new leader of the coalition, a figure shrouded in mystery. The room fell silent as this enigmatic individual began to speak, exuding a powerful aura that commanded attention. It quickly became evident that this was no ordinary villain. Their charisma and presence captivated those around them, instilling both loyalty and fear. Through a combination of hints and veiled threats, the leader outlined their vision for the future, one in which the old order of heroes would crumble, replaced by a new regime that embraced power, ambition, and ruthless efficiency. Black Widow and her team exchanged worried glances, realizing they were witnessing the birth of a dangerous new era in villainy. As they prepared to escape with the critical information they had gathered, their luck took a turn for the worse. A guard noticed an anomaly in the shadows and alerted the others. Chaos erupted as Black Widow, Hawkeye, and the Winter Soldier fought to escape. They engaged in a fierce battle against the coalition members, using their skills to fend off attackers while attempting to make their way back to the exit. Despite the odds, the trio worked seamlessly together, leveraging their strengths to create openings for their escape. Black Widow's agility and hand-to-hand combat skills allowed her to take down multiple foes, while Hawkeye provided cover with precise arrows. The Winter Soldier's enhanced abilities enabled him to withstand attacks, showcasing his resilience even in the heat of battle. In a dramatic chase through the stronghold, the team finally reached an exit, but not without sustaining injuries. They burst into the night, adrenaline coursing through their veins as they made their way back to the safety of the forest. With their hearts racing, they rendezvoused at a designated extraction point where a Quinjet awaited them, ready to take them back to their headquarters. Back at Avengers headquarters, Reed Richards, Scarlet Witch, and Thor were anxiously awaiting the return of their teammates. They understood the importance of the intelligence being gathered and the risks involved. When Black Widow and her team finally returned, they rushed to share their findings. As the trio debriefed the others, they revealed the existence of the coalition, the figures involved, and the ominous leader who seemed poised to unify these disparate forces under one banner. The room fell silent as the gravity of the situation sank in. The Avengers had uncovered a significant threat, one that could potentially rival them if not addressed swiftly. Reed's mind raced as he began to piece together the implications of this coalition. It became evident that they needed to act quickly to counter the threat before it could gain further momentum. The Avengers discussed their next steps, realizing they needed to infiltrate the coalition's ranks further to gather more intelligence about the enigmatic leader and their ultimate plans. They decided to deploy various strategies. Some would act as operatives to sow discord within the coalition, while others would work on strengthening their alliances with remaining heroes who could aid them. Thor volunteered to reach out to his allies in Asgard, while Iron Man began developing advanced technology designed to counter the coalition's emerging threats. Reed and Scarlet, which continued their study of the Darkheart, seeking to harness its power for defensive measures. They understood that to confront this new alliance effectively, they would need to utilize every resource available to them, blending their technological expertise with the mystical energies they had uncovered. As they prepared for the battles to come, the Avengers reaffirmed their commitment to one another. They recognized that the challenges they faced were unprecedented, but their unity and determination would be their greatest weapon. The legacy of Victor Von Doom had indeed sparked a resurgence of villainy, but it had also ignited a fire within the Avengers, a fire that would drive them to protect the world from darkness once again. The road ahead would be filled with peril, but they stood resolute, ready to confront whatever new adversaries awaited them in the shadows. The Avengers were determined to stand against this new threat, drawing strength from their bond and the lessons learned from their past encounters. United, they prepared for the battles ahead, knowing that their fight for justice was far from over. With the coalition of villains rapidly gaining traction, the Avengers understood the urgency of their situation. The intelligence gathered from Black Widow and her team provided critical insights, revealing not only the extent of the threat, but also the influential figures who were aligning themselves with this nefarious new leadership. They realized that they needed to act quickly and strategically, as their enemies were actively planning an assault that could threaten the safety of innocent lives. Reed Richards took charge of the next phase of their strategy. He proposed a multi-pronged approach that involved further infiltration of the coalition, seeking to disrupt their plans from within. The Avengers needed to create division among the members of the coalition and exploit any weaknesses they could find. To this end, they would use their unique abilities to sow distrust and confusion among the villains. To initiate this plan, the Avengers devised a strategy to create a false lead that would lure some of the coalition members into a trap. They targeted one faction within the coalition known for its ruthless tactics, a group of mercenaries led by a former ally of Victor Von Doom named Crossbones. Known for his merciless demeanor and combat prowess, Crossbones had gained notoriety for his willingness to do whatever it took to achieve his goals, making him a prime target for the Avengers' plan. Black Widow was chosen to infiltrate Crossbones' group. Using her extensive espionage skills, she donned a disguise and assumed a new identity as a mercenary seeking employment. She approached the group under the pretense of offering her skills, knowing that her background would intrigue Crossbones. Her plan was to gain the trust of the mercenaries, learn their upcoming missions, and potentially identify any weaknesses within their ranks. Meanwhile, Iron Man, Thor, and Scarlet, which prepared for their own operation. They focused on a secondary objective, to gather information about the coalition's leader and the resources they were amassing. Using Stark's technology, they traced digital communications linked to the coalition, hoping to uncover any strategic plans or connections that could give them an advantage. As Black Widow delved deeper into Crossbones' faction, she quickly realized the mercenaries were not simply interested in monetary gain. They were fueled by a desire for vengeance against the Avengers. Crossbones had instilled a deep-seated hatred for heroes among his ranks, presenting them as obstacles to their true ambitions. This animosity would work to her advantage, as she could manipulate their emotions to foster internal discord. Black Widow observed the dynamics within the group, noting how Crossbones ruled with an iron fist, demanding absolute loyalty while cultivating fear among his men. She began to sow seeds of doubt, carefully feeding into the insecurities of those around her. by subtly questioning Crossbone's leadership and planting the idea that the coalition might not have their best interests at heart. She started to destabilize their unity. Back at the Avengers headquarters, Iron Man, Thor, and Scarlet, which made significant progress in their investigation. They discovered that the coalition was gathering resources and planning an attack on a major city, intending to demonstrate their power and dominance. The news sent ripples of urgency through the team. They had limited time to disrupt these plans before the coalition could execute their assault. In a particularly shocking revelation, they uncovered communications suggesting that the coalition's leader had secured a powerful weapon, a prototype derived from a combination of advanced technology and dark magic. This weapon could amplify the abilities of those who wielded it, making the coalition significantly more dangerous than they had initially anticipated. The Avengers realized that acquiring or destroying this weapon must be a priority, as it could shift the balance of power in favor of the coalition. As Black Widow continued her infiltration, she became aware of a secret meeting being arranged by Crossbones and a few key members of the coalition. This meeting would be held at a hidden location, a desolate warehouse on the outskirts of the city, chosen for its isolation from prying eyes. Black Widow decided this was the opportunity she needed to gather more substantial evidence regarding the coalition's plans. With the meeting set, Black Widow prepared for the next phase of her mission. She contacted the Avengers, alerting them to the time and location of the gathering. The team quickly mobilized, each member taking on their respective roles in the plan. Iron Man provided tech support, ensuring Black Widow had access to surveillance feeds, while Thor and Scarlet, which were ready to intervene if the situation escalated. On the night of the meeting, the warehouse was cloaked in shadows, the air thick with tension as various members of the coalition gathered to discuss their next move. Black Widow, now fully embedded within the mercenaries, took a position near the entrance, listening intently as Crossbones began outlining their plans. He spoke with fervor, his eyes blazing with the intensity of his convictions, and his voice echoing throughout the warehouse. Crossbones made it clear that they needed to send a message, a show of force to both heroes and civilians. He urged his followers to prepare for a series of attacks on strategic locations, claiming that this would establish their dominance and inspire fear in those who dared to oppose them. As he spoke, Black Widow noted the mixture of eagerness and unease among the attendees. Some were invigorated by his words, while others appeared hesitant, questioning the wisdom of the assault. Taking advantage of the unrest, Black Widow decided to act. She initiated a distraction by triggering a smoke bomb hidden within her gear, causing panic and confusion among the mercenaries. In the chaos, she quickly gathered crucial documents detailing the coalition's plans and the specifics of the proposed attacks. Just as Crossbones began to regain control of the situation, she slipped out of the warehouse, ready to escape and relay the information to the Avengers. Outside, Black Widow signaled for the Quinjet, and the vehicle swooped in silently, landing just as the chaos inside reached a crescendo. As she boarded the Quinjet, her heart raced with adrenaline, knowing that the information she had obtained could change the tide of their fight against the coalition. Back at headquarters, the Avengers awaited her return with bated breath. When Black Widow arrived, she presented the documents to Reed, who immediately began analyzing the data. The specifics of the attacks were alarming. The coalition planned to hit several key locations simultaneously, aiming to maximize chaos and destruction. The documents revealed not only their targets, but also the involvement of several powerful villains who were planning to coordinate their efforts, showcasing the coalition's strength. Reed quickly devised a counter-strategy. The Avengers would split up into teams and focus on protecting the key locations identified in the documents. Each team would thwart the coalition's efforts, preventing them from launching their attacks and disrupting their plans. Thor, Scarlet Witch, and Iron Man were assigned to the first target, a vital energy plant that powered a significant portion of the city. If the coalition managed to take control of this facility, they would disrupt power throughout the region and create widespread panic. They prepared for a direct confrontation, armed with the knowledge that they would likely face formidable opponents. Meanwhile, Black Widow would lead a second team to intercept another group targeting a major transportation hub, intending to cause chaos by halting transport and crippling the city's infrastructure. Her experience with the mercenaries would prove invaluable in predicting their tactics and movements. As the Avengers set off on their respective missions, they steeled themselves for the battles ahead. The atmosphere buzzed with determination as they recognized the gravity of the situation. Failure was not an option. They could not allow the coalition to succeed in their plans. Each member felt the weight of their responsibilities, understanding that the safety of innocent lives depended on their actions. The first confrontation erupted at the energy plant, where Thor unleashed a surge of lightning, illuminating the darkened sky as he clashed with a group of mercenaries led by Crossbones himself. Iron Man flew overhead, raining down precision blasts to take out adversaries, while Scarlet, which manipulated the environment around them, using her powers to create barriers and disorient the enemy. The battle was intense, with mercenaries launching assaults from every direction, but the Avengers stood resolute. Their teamwork proved crucial, allowing them to anticipate each other's moves and effectively counter the attacks. They fought with purpose, understanding that the outcome of this encounter would set the tone for the larger conflict against the coalition. Simultaneously, Black Widow's team engaged the mercenaries targeting the transportation hub. With her expertise in hand-to-hand combat, she expertly navigated through the fray, taking down adversaries with grace and precision. The chaos unfolded around them, and she orchestrated the team's movements, coordinating their efforts to ensure they maintained the upper hand. As the dust began to settle in both locations, it became clear that the Avengers were making significant headway. They were successfully repelling the coalition's advances, forcing the mercenaries into retreat. However, as they fought, they knew that this was just the beginning. The coalition would not easily accept defeat. They would regroup and retaliate. Having thwarted the immediate threats at both locations, the Avengers regrouped at headquarters. The atmosphere was a mix of relief and tension, knowing that while they had achieved a victory, it was only temporary. They had uncovered a glimpse of the coalition's plans, but the true strength of their adversaries remained a mystery. Reed and Scarlet, which continued to analyze the documents, seeking any additional insights that could guide their next moves. They understood that their enemies were not just powerful individuals, but also strategically minded. The coalition's leader, still unknown, loomed as a dark shadow over their operations, and they needed to learn more about this figure if they were to face them effectively. As the sun began to rise, casting light over the city, the Avengers knew they were in for a long battle ahead. The coalition was formidable, but united, the Avengers were ready to confront whatever came their way. With renewed determination, they prepared to strike at the heart of the coalition, unraveling the threads of villainy that threatened to engulf their world once again. As dawn broke over the city, a sense of urgency filled the air. The Avengers had successfully thwarted the immediate plans of the coalition, but they knew their respite would be fleeting. The leaders of the coalition would not sit idly by. They would regroup, recalibrate, and strike again. The tension in the headquarters was palpable as Reed Richards and Scarlet, which meticulously studied the documents Black Widow had recovered. They needed to uncover the true identity of the coalition's leader and devise a plan that would dismantle this insidious organization once and for all. As they delved deeper into the intelligence, they began to identify patterns in the communications. They discovered references to a mysterious figure known only as the Architect. This individual appeared to be the mastermind behind the coalition, orchestrating everything from the recruitment of villains to the strategic planning of their attacks. The architect's methods were shrouded in secrecy, and there was little information to uncover about their identity or motivations. Determined to unveil the architect, the Avengers initiated a multi-layered investigation. They pooled their resources and expertise, leveraging technology and magic to search for any clues that could lead them to this elusive figure. Iron Man focused on digital surveillance, tracking the flow of communications associated with the Coalition. Meanwhile, Scarlet, which utilized her mystical abilities to tap into the psychic energies surrounding the Coalition, hoping to glean insights into their leader's identity. Days turned into nights as the Avengers tirelessly worked, their efforts fueled by the knowledge that each passing moment brought the Coalition closer to a new strike. They were not only battling villains, but also time itself. After several exhausting days of investigation, they finally hit a breakthrough. Iron Man traced a series of encrypted messages that pointed to a clandestine meeting taking place in an abandoned factory on the outskirts of the city. The urgency of the situation was palpable. This was likely where the Coalition would regroup to plot their next move. The Avengers swiftly devised a plan. They would infiltrate the meeting, using stealth and strategy to uncover the identity of the architect and gain critical information about the Coalition's next moves. Black Widow, with her expertise in espionage, took the lead in formulating the infiltration strategy. She emphasized the need for precision and coordination. They could not afford to let the Coalition know they were onto them. The evening of the meeting arrived, and the Avengers moved under the cover of darkness. They approached the factory with caution, each member aware of the gravity of the situation. Black Widow led the charge, expertly navigating through shadows and avoiding detection. Iron Man and Thor provided support from above, ready to intervene if necessary. Scarlet, which remained on standby, prepared to use her powers to shield them if they were discovered. As they neared the factory, the air buzzed with tension. Black Widow signaled for everyone to halt. She listened intently, her keen senses attuned to the muffled voices emanating from within. They could hear the distinctive sound of gravel crunching underfoot as the Coalition members arrived for their meeting. Inside the factory, the Coalition members gathered in a dimly lit room, their faces illuminated by flickering overhead lights. Crossbones stood at the forefront, addressing the gathered villains with fervor. He spoke of their recent failures but emphasized the resilience of their cause. The architect was supposed to join them soon, he promised, and this meeting would lay the groundwork for their resurgence. Black Widow and the team carefully maneuvered closer, using the shadows to conceal their presence. They observed the dynamic within the group. Crossbones' authoritative tone and commanding presence held the mercenaries in thrall, but there was an undercurrent of discontent among some members. The hesitations they had observed earlier were now more pronounced. Whispers of dissent spread among the ranks. It became evident to Black Widow that their plan to sow discord had worked. Suddenly, the atmosphere shifted as the door creaked open, and a figure stepped inside. The Avengers tensed, eager to discover the identity of the architect. The room fell silent as the figure emerged from the shadows, revealing a tall individual clad in a dark, elegant cloak, their face obscured by a mask that reflected an eerie, unsettling light. With a commanding voice that resonated through the room, the architect began to speak. Their words were calculated and persuasive, addressing the fears and frustrations of the Coalition members. They offered promises of power and retribution against the Avengers, playing on the mercenaries' desires for revenge and dominance. As the architect spoke, the Avengers exchanged glances, each one sensing the weight of the moment. They understood they were witnessing the birth of a potent new threat. From their concealed position, Black Widow began recording the conversation, determined to capture every detail. The architect revealed plans for a new offensive, one that would target the heart of the Avengers' operations. Their strategy involved a concerted assault on key Avengers assets, aiming to fracture their unity and sow chaos. The architect emphasized the need for precision, outlining a series of coordinated attacks designed to overwhelm the Avengers and strike fear into the hearts of the citizens. As the architect laid out their vision, Black Widow sensed an opportunity. She knew that revealing the architect's identity would demoralize the coalition. If they could capture or expose this figure, it would significantly weaken the organization. She signaled to Iron Man and Scarlet Witch, who understood the urgency of the situation. It was time to act. Just as the architect concluded their address, Black Widow made her move, emerging from the shadows with a calculated grace. The coalition members gasped in shock, their surprise morphing into confusion and fear. Iron Man swooped in from above, blasting the lights on the ceiling to blind their enemies, while Scarlet Witch conjured a protective barrier around her teammates, shielding them from any immediate retaliation. The chaos erupted as the coalition members scrambled to comprehend the sudden attack. Crossbones rallied his men, barking orders amidst the pandemonium, but their cohesion had already begun to fracture. Black Widow seized the moment, confronting the architect directly. "Who are you?" she demanded, her voice steady despite the turmoil around them. "You've orchestrated this chaos from the shadows, but now you'll answer for it." The architect turned slowly, the mask reflecting the chaos surrounding them. "You think you can challenge me, Avenger? You have no idea what you're up against." Just as the architect spoke, a blast of energy erupted from their hand, striking the ground at Black Widow's feet. She deftly rolled aside, narrowly avoiding the blast, and she sensed the intensity of their power. The battle was now in full swing, with Iron Man unleashing a barrage of repulsor blasts, while Thor summoned lightning to strike down upon the coalition members, forcing them into disarray. Scarlet Witch, tapping into her chaos magic, began to weave spells that warped reality around her. She manipulated the environment, creating illusions that caused the coalition members to turn against one another in confusion. The dynamic of the battlefield shifted as fear and uncertainty enveloped the mercenaries. The architect, however, was not easily intimidated. They remained composed amidst the chaos, using their powers to counter the Avengers' attacks. Their mastery of both technology and sorcery allowed them to manipulate the very fabric of the battlefield, creating barriers and redirecting attacks. It became clear that this figure was not merely a puppet but a formidable adversary in their own right. In the midst of the chaos, Black Widow remained focused on her objective. She maneuvered through the fray, utilizing her agility and combat skills to engage the mercenaries while seeking a way to confront the architect directly. As she fought, she could see the tide beginning to turn against the coalition, with their members faltering under the onslaught of the Avengers. Iron Man's strategic aerial assaults disrupted their formation, while Thor's thunderous strikes shattered their morale. One by one, coalition members fell back, and dissent began to spread as they recognized the formidable strength of their opponents. The architect, however, refused to yield. They unleashed a powerful surge of energy that radiated throughout the factory, knocking several Avengers off their feet. Scarlet Witch, sensing the need for a counterattack, focused her magic and conjured a wave of chaotic energy that clashed with the architect's powers. The two forces collided, sending shockwaves throughout the factory. As they battled, Black Widow seized her chance. She lunged forward, aiming to capture the architect and put an end to their machinations. Just as Black Widow reached the architect, they activated a hidden device on their wrist, and a blinding flash of light engulfed the room. When the light faded, the architect had vanished, leaving behind only confusion and disarray. The coalition members, now leaderless, began to flee, their unity shattered. As the dust settled, The Avengers regrouped, their hearts heavy with the knowledge that they had come so close to capturing the architect. They had faced a powerful adversary, and while they had disrupted the coalition's meeting, the architect had escaped, leaving their plans for the future uncertain. In the aftermath of the battle, the Avengers gathered to debrief. They analyzed the information they had gathered, recognizing that while they had thwarted this immediate threat, the architect remained at large, a formidable opponent waiting to strike again. The need for a new strategy became apparent. They needed to find a way to track down the architect and dismantle the coalition from its roots. Reed proposed an ambitious plan to infiltrate the coalition at multiple levels. They would deploy operatives to gather intelligence on the various factions, aiming to create a network of information that would lead them to the architect. The team knew this would require careful planning and execution, as they had to stay one step ahead of their adversaries. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the Avengers knew the battle was far from over. They steeled themselves for the challenges that lay ahead, united in their determination to confront the architect and bring an end to the coalition's threat once and for all. Their fight was not just for their own safety, but for the future of the world they had sworn to protect. The Avengers, still reeling from the near miss with the architect, redoubled their efforts to understand the coalition and its inner workings. As they gathered in their headquarters, a sense of urgency hung in the air. They understood that the architect was not only a figure of authority but also a symbol of a greater threat, one that could unravel their very foundation. The mood was tense, each member aware that their next steps could determine the fate of not just their team but the world itself. Reed Richards initiated the meeting, outlining a multifaceted strategy to infiltrate the coalition. He had spent hours poring over the intelligence they had collected, identifying key individuals and factions within the coalition. His mind raced with calculations and possibilities, knowing they needed to act swiftly before the architect regrouped and launched another offensive. Scarlet Witch, drawing from her mystical abilities, suggested employing magic to locate any hidden layers of the coalition. She believed there might be individuals within the organization who harbored doubts about their loyalty to the architect. If they could find these individuals and bring them to their side, it could weaken the coalition from within. Iron Man supported this idea, proposing a technological approach. He would enhance the surveillance capabilities of their headquarters, utilizing drones and advanced AI algorithms to monitor communications in real time. This would allow them to detect any signs of unrest within the coalition, giving them the edge they needed to respond before it was too late. With their plans set in motion, the team split into smaller groups to execute their strategies. Scarlet Witch, alongside Black Widow, set out to search for potential defectors, using her powers to probe the minds of those who had been captured during their encounters with the coalition. They needed to create a network of allies willing to provide insider information about the architect's operations. Iron Man, in the meantime, worked tirelessly in his lab, upgrading his surveillance drones. He was determined to have eyes on the coalition at all times. Each drone was equipped with stealth capabilities and advanced monitoring technology, allowing them to blend seamlessly into their surroundings. Iron Man even programmed the drones with facial recognition software to identify known coalition members, further increasing their chances of intercepting critical communications. While the technological and mystical strategies unfolded, Thor and Captain America took it upon themselves to address the physical threat posed by the coalition. They began recruiting additional allies, reaching out to other heroes across the globe. The two knew that the coalition would not hesitate to bring in heavy hitters, and they needed to bolster their ranks to ensure they were ready for any confrontation. Days turned into weeks as the Avengers pushed forward with their plan, maintaining a vigilant watch over the city. The pressure weighed heavily on them, each member acutely aware of the risks involved. Yet, they found moments of respite, sharing stories and laughter as they fortified their camaraderie. They were a family, and together they would face whatever challenges lay ahead. Their perseverance paid off when Black Widow and Scarlet, which succeeded in locating a former coalition member willing to cooperate. This individual, a former mercenary known as Viper, had grown disillusioned with the coalition's methods. They approached the Avengers with invaluable information about the coalition's inner workings and the Architect's long-term goals. Viper explained that the Architect had a grand vision to destabilize global powers, inciting chaos that would enable them to rise above all. They revealed that the Architect planned a significant operation, one that would target multiple cities simultaneously, creating widespread panic and unrest. It was a game-changing revelation that could alter the course of their struggle against the coalition. Scarlet, which, sensing the weight of Viper's information, organized a strategic meeting to discuss their next steps. The team gathered in the briefing room, the tension thick as they processed the intel. Viper's insights painted a clear picture of the imminent threat they faced. The coalition was readying for an all-out assault, and the Avengers needed to be prepared. With Viper's help, they mapped out potential targets, identifying major metropolitan areas that would likely be targeted by the coalition. New York City, Los Angeles, and London were among the primary locations discussed, each a focal point of commerce and power. The Avengers needed to act quickly to prevent catastrophe. Reed devised a plan that involved splitting the team into multiple units, each tasked with defending a different location. They would need to create a coordinated response, with each member playing a vital role in fortifying defenses and countering any coalition advances. Black Widow and Viper would focus on gathering intelligence and intercepting any coalition operatives before they could enact their plans. Iron Man would monitor communications, using his drones to provide real-time updates on any movement. The Avengers sprang into action, deploying their forces strategically across the targeted cities. Black Widow and Viper made their way to New York, blending into the bustling streets as they began to gather information. They utilized their stealth skills to infiltrate underground gatherings where coalition members discussed their plans. Viper's knowledge of the organization proved invaluable as they navigated through layers of secrecy. Simultaneously, Iron Man flew to Los Angeles, where he set up a base of operations to coordinate his drone surveillance. He was determined to keep a close watch on the coalition's movements, ready to spring into action at a moment's notice. His drones scoured the city, relaying critical data to him as he worked tirelessly to identify any potential threats. In London, Thor and Captain America rallied local heroes, creating a formidable defense against any coalition attack. They addressed the community, instilling confidence and ensuring that citizens felt secure in their presence. Thor's commanding presence, combined with Captain America's steadfast leadership, inspired many to join their cause. As the clock ticked down, the tension escalated. Each Avenger remained on high alert, knowing that an attack could come at any moment. The coalition was unpredictable, and the Architect's cunning could lead them to strike when least expected. On the eve of the planned assault, Viper and Black Widow uncovered information about a coordinated strike scheduled to occur in New York City the following day. The coalition had set their sights on a major public event, intending to unleash chaos amidst the crowds. The stakes had never been higher, and the urgency of the situation was palpable. Viper shared the intelligence with the team, and a sense of determination washed over the Avengers. They understood they had to act swiftly to prevent disaster. In a series of urgent meetings, they devised a comprehensive counter-strategy, working tirelessly throughout the night to prepare for the looming threat. As dawn approached, the Avengers found themselves at the center of the city, ready to defend against the impending attack. They positioned themselves strategically, with Iron Man monitoring the skies and Black Widow and Viper stationed at key entry points. The excitement of the impending battle surged through their veins, each hero steeling themselves for the fight ahead. The sun rose on what promised to be a fateful day. The city buzzed with anticipation, unaware of the storm brewing just beneath the surface. The Avengers stood united, their resolve unshakable, knowing that they would face the coalition head-on to protect the city and its people. Together, they would confront the darkness that threatened to engulf them, determined to emerge victorious against the architect and their sinister machinations. The sun had barely risen over New York City, casting a soft golden hue across the skyline. But the air was thick with tension as the Avengers prepared for the imminent threat posed by the coalition. Each member of the team was acutely aware of the gravity of the situation. They had managed to gather critical intelligence, and now they stood on the precipice of battle, their resolve as solid as the city around them. In a high-rise building overlooking Central Park, Iron Man activated the drones, his gaze fixed on the monitors displaying multiple angles of the city. The AI systems hummed to life, analyzing movements and picking up on patterns that would give them the edge they needed. He had configured the drones with the ability to relay real-time updates, ensuring that any coalition activity would be detected almost immediately. Tony Stark, the genius inventor behind the armor and technology, was ready to lead the charge if necessary. Meanwhile, Captain America rallied the local authorities and emergency services, urging them to evacuate the area surrounding the planned public event. With his shield at his side, he exuded an aura of confidence and authority, encouraging the civilians to remain calm while ensuring that they were out of harm's way. Every second counted, and the stakes were incredibly high. The team understood that the coalition's plan was not just about causing chaos. It was a direct assault on the safety of the citizens, and they needed to minimize any potential casualties. In another part of the city, Black Widow and Viper moved stealthily through the crowds, their eyes scanning for any signs of coalition operatives. With the event drawing near, the streets filled with people, and excitement bubbled in the air. Vendors set up their stalls, music played from nearby speakers, and laughter rang out as families began to gather for the festivities. Black Widow knew that the chaos of the crowd would provide the perfect cover for the coalition's operatives, making it harder to identify friend from foe. She tightened her grip on her weapons, ready for anything that might happen. As the morning wore on, the anticipation reached a fever pitch. The crowds grew denser, and the atmosphere buzzed with energy, but beneath it all lay an undercurrent of unease. The Avengers kept their eyes peeled, fully aware that they were standing on the brink of an all-out confrontation. They had positioned themselves strategically throughout the venue, creating a safety net of heroes who would spring into action at a moment's notice. Suddenly, Iron Man's drones picked up unusual activity near the outskirts of the park. A cluster of individuals, all wearing inconspicuous clothing, began to gather in a seemingly casual manner. Their body language was tense, and the way they scanned the area raised alarm bells. Tony's voice broke through the calm of the operations center, urgency threading through his tone as he relayed the information to the team. "They're here. The coalition is making their move. I count at least a dozen targets. They're spreading out, trying to blend into the crowd. We need to engage now before they initiate their attack." Captain America immediately took command, his voice steady and resolute. "Avengers, let's move. We need to apprehend those individuals before they can activate their plan." The urgency in his voice propelled everyone into action. Each hero understood their role, and they sprang into motion, navigating the throngs of people toward the identified targets. Black Widow and Viper moved swiftly through the crowd, using the bustling environment to their advantage. Black Widow relied on her combat training, ready to act at a moment's notice, while Viper utilized her knowledge of the coalition's tactics to anticipate their moves. As they approached the cluster of individuals, they could see that these were no ordinary citizens. Their expressions were focused, eyes darting as they prepared for whatever sinister plans the architect had orchestrated. The first strike came without warning. A sudden explosion rocked the area, sending debris flying and causing chaos among the crowd. The coalition had activated their plan, and panic erupted as people screamed and scattered in all directions. Amid the chaos, Iron Man soared into the air, his armor glinting in the sunlight. He unleashed repulsor blasts toward the nearest group of coalition members, catching them off guard and sending them sprawling. Captain America leaped into the fray, his shield raised as he intercepted a coalition operative aiming to escape the scene. With a powerful throw, he sent his shield crashing into the individual, knocking them to the ground. "Secure the area," he shouted to the others, his voice cutting through the din of fear and confusion. Thor swung his mighty hammer, Mjolnir, creating a shockwave that knocked several coalition members off their feet. The Thunder God's presence was a beacon of strength, rallying the Avengers as they fought against the encroaching threat. He called out for Midgard, channeling the power of his lineage to push back the tide of chaos. Scarlet, which focused her abilities, weaving through the crowd with grace and precision. She felt the surging emotions of the people around her and used her powers to calm those nearby, instilling a sense of safety amidst the turmoil. Her hex powers surged as she created a protective barrier around innocent bystanders, shielding them from the fallout of the battle. As the battle raged on, Viper and Black Widow worked in tandem, each covering the other's blind spots. They expertly navigated the chaos, using their agility to evade incoming attacks while disarming coalition members with swift, calculated moves. Viper employed her unique training, taking down enemies with a mixture of combat prowess and clever tactics, while Black Widow relied on her stealth to strike from the shadows. Iron Man continued to survey the battlefield from above, coordinating with his drones to provide real-time intelligence to the Avengers. "There are reinforcements heading in from the east. We need to intercept them before they can flank us." His voice rang out through their communication systems, directing the heroes to their next targets. The Avengers were relentless, each hero playing to their strengths. Captain America led a charge toward a group of operatives attempting to regroup, his shield slicing through the air as he crashed into their ranks. Thor's hammer crackled with energy as he summoned lightning, the sky darkening as he unleashed its fury on those threatening the safety of the citizens. As the fight unfolded, it became clear that the coalition was more organized than the Avengers had anticipated. They had come prepared, using smoke bombs and devices to create further confusion among the crowd. The situation escalated as more coalition members began to flood into the area, and the odds started to tilt against the heroes. Realizing they needed to regroup, Iron Man called out, "Fall back to the staging area. We need to reevaluate our strategy before they overwhelm us." His voice echoed through the chaos, urging the Avengers to move toward a central point. The team began to retreat strategically, fighting their way back as they exchanged blows with the coalition. The civilians, now mostly evacuated thanks to Captain America's earlier efforts, watched from a distance as the battle unfolded, their hearts racing with fear and admiration for the heroes defending their city. The sight of the Avengers fighting against the coalition instilled hope in them, igniting a spark of courage as they rallied together, waiting to hear news of their safety. As the Avengers regrouped, they assessed the situation. The battle had turned into a fierce melee, and they needed to adapt quickly. Iron Man activated his new offensive capabilities, employing a barrage of missiles from his suit to clear a path through the coalition's ranks. His precision targeting was unparalleled, allowing him to dismantle their formation and regain control of the area. Scarlet, which joined forces with him, using her powers to amplify the explosive effects of Iron Man's weapons, creating a powerful ripple that destabilized the coalition's position. The ground trembled beneath them as they struck back, forcing the coalition members into retreat. With renewed vigor, Captain America took charge. "Push forward. We can't let them regroup." We have to take the fight to them." His rallying cry resonated with the Avengers, igniting their determination. They surged forward, engaging the coalition in a fierce counterattack, determined to dismantle the threat once and for all. In the midst of the chaos, Viper and Black Widow found themselves face to face with one of the coalition's key leaders. The individual was a formidable fighter, displaying a mastery of combat that challenged even Black Widow's skills. They exchanged blows, moving fluidly as they sought to gain the upper hand. Viper used her agility to evade a strike, landing a well-placed kick that momentarily staggered their opponent. With a swift maneuver, Black Widow seized the opportunity, catching the leader off guard and taking them down with a calculated grappling move. The leader crashed to the ground, momentarily incapacitated, allowing the two women to press forward and assist their fellow Avengers. As the battle reached its climax, the tide began to turn in favor of the Avengers. The coalition members, once organized, started to falter under the relentless assault of the heroes. Iron Man and Scarlet, which created a powerful combo, blasting through enemy lines while Thor and Captain America led the charge against any remaining operatives. But the Architect, sensing the unraveling of their carefully laid plans, decided to intervene directly. With a booming voice that echoed through the chaos, the Architect revealed their presence, stepping forward to confront the Avengers. Dressed in an imposing suit of armor that shimmered with dark energy, they radiated power and malice, their very presence casting a shadow over the battlefield. "Foolish heroes," the Architect declared, their voice laced with contempt. "You may have thwarted my pawns, but you are no match for me. Your failure is inevitable." The Avengers stood their ground, united and ready to face this new threat. Captain America stepped forward, his shield raised, embodying the spirit of resilience. "We will not let you harm this city or its people. We've faced greater threats before, and we won't back down now." The Architect's laughter filled the air, mingling with the chaos of the ongoing battle. The very fabric of the environment seemed to shift as they unleashed a torrent of dark energy, sending shockwaves rippling through the ground. The Avengers braced themselves, ready for the fight of their lives as they confronted the Architect, aware that this battle was far from over. The atmosphere crackled with tension as the Architect loomed over the battlefield, a dark figure radiating power and menace. The remaining coalition members had begun to retreat, sensing the tide of battle shifting as the Avengers focused their energy on the Architect. The air was thick with anticipation, and the surrounding chaos began to fade into the background as the heroes prepared to confront this formidable adversary. Captain America stepped forward, his shield glinting in the dim light. "You think your plans can unravel our unity? You underestimate us," he declared, his voice steady and firm. The words echoed with conviction, galvanizing his teammates. Iron Man, hovering nearby, activated his suit's diagnostics, assessing the Architect's capabilities, searching for any weakness he could exploit. He fired a barrage of miniature drones into the air, ready to gather intel on their new opponent. The Architect's eyes glinted with malice, a dark energy swirling around them like a tempest. "You are brave, Captain, but bravery alone will not save you. I have orchestrated this entire conflict, and you will fall before my power." With a swift motion, the Architect raised a hand, summoning a torrent of shadows that writhed like living tendrils, aiming directly at the Avengers. Scarlet, which instinctively raised her hands, channeling her abilities to weave a protective barrier around her teammates. The shadows collided with her hex, creating a brilliant explosion of light that illuminated the battlefield momentarily. The force of the impact knocked several coalition members off their feet, and for a fleeting moment, the heroes gained a glimpse of the Architect's face contorted in frustration. Iron Man seized the opportunity, launching himself toward the Architect with a volley of repulsor blasts. The glowing energy beams lit up the darkened area, striking the architect directly. The impact sent shockwaves through the air, and the ground trembled beneath them. But instead of collapsing, the architect absorbed the energy, their power seemingly magnified by the attack. "Foolish hero," the architect taunted, their voice dripping with disdain. "Your technology is no match for the forces I command." They unleashed a surge of energy that rippled outward, distorting the very fabric of reality around them. The Avengers felt the ground shift under their feet, the air thickening as the architect manipulated the environment to their advantage. Thor, determined not to be outdone, raised Mjolnir high, calling upon the storm. Thunder rumbled ominously overhead as dark clouds began to swirl, echoing the architect's chaotic energy. "Your arrogance will be your undoing," Thor roared, hurling Mjolnir with all his might. The enchanted hammer soared through the air, crackling with lightning as it connected with the architect's barrier, producing a blinding flash that momentarily obscured the battlefield. Black Widow and Viper, still recovering from their earlier skirmish, strategized quietly as the chaos erupted around them. They recognized that direct confrontation might not be the best approach against such a powerful foe. "We need to outsmart them," Viper whispered to Black Widow, her keen eyes scanning the surroundings for any advantage they could leverage. "If we can disrupt their focus, we can weaken their control." With a nod, Black Widow motioned for Viper to follow her. They moved stealthily through the debris and shadows, slipping around the fringes of the battle as Iron Man, Thor, and Captain America kept the architect occupied. The duo understood that the key to victory lay not in brute force but in strategy and precision. Meanwhile, Captain America coordinated the team, issuing commands as they fought. "Iron Man, keep your drones focused on their movements." "Thor, provide cover with your lightning." "Scarlet Witch, maintain that barrier." His leadership shone through as he ensured that every Avenger was working in harmony. They formed a united front, each hero playing to their strengths, but the architect's power continued to grow. As the storm raged around them, the architect began to manipulate the shadows, summoning monstrous creatures from the depths of darkness. These shadowy figures emerged, grotesque and twisted, each one a reflection of the architect's dark intentions. They charged at the Avengers, their forms swirling like smoke, striking out with claws and fangs that seemed to glimmer with malevolence. Thor met the first wave head-on, swinging Mjolnir with precision. The hammer connected with one of the creatures, sending it dissipating into a cloud of shadows. But for every creature he defeated, more seemed to pour forth from the architect's command. The tide of darkness threatened to engulf the Avengers, and their situation began to look increasingly dire. Iron Man engaged in aerial combat, dodging the swirling shadows while firing repulsor blasts. He quickly realized that the creatures were not merely physical threats. They were manifestations of the architect's will, fueled by the very darkness that the architect wielded. "We need to find a way to sever their connection to the architect," he shouted to the team as he expertly maneuvered through the chaos. Scarlet Witch, sensing the shift in the battle, began to focus her powers. She understood that she needed to create a rupture in the architect's control. Channeling her energy, she weaved a spell that would disrupt the dark tendrils reaching out to the shadow creatures. As she focused, the ground began to tremble, and a wave of energy burst forth from her hands, targeting the creatures. Viper and Black Widow, now flanking the architect, saw their chance. They had made their way to a position where they could strike. "On my mark," Black Widow whispered, her instincts honed for a moment like this. Viper nodded, ready to execute their plan. As Scarlet Witch unleashed her spell, causing the shadow creatures to falter, Black Widow and Viper sprang into action. They charged forward, aiming to disrupt the architect directly. Black Widow used her agility to dodge the encroaching shadows, while Viper delivered powerful strikes, using her combat skills to weave through the chaos. The Architect, sensing the danger, turned their attention to the two women. "You dare approach me?" they growled, shadows swirling menacingly. But Black Widow, undeterred, lunged forward with calculated precision, striking at the Architect's defenses. Viper followed suit, utilizing a swift combination of moves that left the Architect momentarily off balance. Amidst the clash, Iron Man, Captain America, and Thor pressed forward, attacking with renewed vigor. They combined their efforts, creating a diversion that allowed Black Widow and Viper to capitalize on the Architect's distraction. Iron Man unleashed a barrage of missiles that detonated around the Architect, creating an opening as the dark energy momentarily flickered. Scarlet Witch felt the connection between the Architect and their shadow creatures weakening. "Now!" she shouted, urging her teammates forward. The Avengers rallied together, each hero pushing against the darkness, determined to protect their city and each other. The battle raged on, and the Architect, sensing their control slipping, unleashed a final, desperate wave of energy. The shadows surged forward with renewed intensity, seeking to engulf the heroes entirely. The air crackled with tension as the very fabric of reality seemed to distort. But Captain America raised his shield, a symbol of hope and resilience. "We fight together," he declared, rallying his team. The Avengers combined their powers, channeling their collective strength into a focused attack against the Architect. Iron Man unleashed his most powerful repulsor blast, while Thor summoned a storm of lightning to strike simultaneously. Scarlet Witch's hex amplified their attack, causing a cataclysmic explosion of energy. The force shattered the shadows, disrupting the Architect's control. The dark figures staggered back, their malevolence faltering for the first time. The battlefield erupted in a blinding light as the combined powers of the Avengers collided with the Architect. The darkness began to retreat, and the monstrous creatures evaporated into nothingness, their forms dissipating like mist in the wind. In the aftermath of the explosive confrontation, the Architect staggered, their power waning as the shadows receded. A look of disbelief crossed their face. "How can this be?" they murmured, their voice filled with fury and confusion. "You cannot defeat me," Captain America, standing tall, replied with unwavering conviction. "Together, we are stronger than your darkness. We will always fight for those who cannot fight for themselves." With those words, he stepped forward, ready to deliver the final blow, knowing that the unity of the Avengers was their greatest weapon against the Architect's insidious plans. The final confrontation loomed, and the battle for the fate of New York City hung in the balance as the Avengers prepared to face their most powerful foe yet. The air shimmered with energy, anticipation crackling as they pushed forward, determined to bring the Architect's reign of darkness to an end once and for all. The battle was a cacophony of chaos, a whirlwind of energy and desperation that hung heavily in the air. The Architect, their powers waning but not extinguished, summoned every ounce of dark energy they could muster. Shadows coalesced around them, twisting and writhing as they sought to regain control over the battlefield and the minds of the Avengers. Captain America stood resolute, shield raised, embodying the very spirit of courage. His eyes were fixed on the Architect, and the determination in his stance radiated to his teammates. Iron Man hovered nearby, scanning the environment for vulnerabilities, while Thor, still wielding Mjolnir, drew upon the fury of the storm, lightning flashing ominously overhead. Scarlet Witch stood poised, her hands crackling with chaotic energy, ready to counter any dark manifestations. "Now is the time to finish this," Captain America declared, rallying his allies. "We have to strike while we have the advantage." The architect's expression twisted with a mixture of anger and disbelief. You think you can defeat me? I am the culmination of power and ambition. You are nothing but insects. Their voice reverberated through the battlefield, laced with the echoes of countless voices, each one filled with rage and despair. The shadows surged forward in a desperate attempt to shield their master, but Captain America was undeterred. He charged forward, shield gleaming as he smashed through the dark tendrils, breaking their hold over the battlefield. Iron Man followed suit, firing energy blasts that exploded against the shadows, dispersing them like wisps of smoke in the wind. Thor summoned a storm of lightning, unleashing a barrage of electric fury that danced through the air. The bolts struck the ground around the architect, creating fissures in the earth and sending shockwaves rippling through the ground. The architect faltered, their concentration wavering as the storm raged around them. Scarlet Witch stepped forward, her focus laser-sharp. "I can feel the darkness weakening," she called out, her voice filled with urgency. "If we can just break their connection to this realm, we can defeat them once and for all." The energy surrounding her surged in response to her command, crackling with a vibrant intensity as she wove her spells. In the chaos, Black Widow and Viper moved strategically, coordinating their movements as they flanked the architect. They understood that direct confrontation was not the answer. Instead, they aimed to disrupt the architect's focus. "We need to draw their attention away from the others," Black Widow whispered, her instincts honed for the right moment to strike. Viper nodded, ready to engage. As the shadows threatened to envelop them again, Captain America and Iron Man pushed the assault. They charged together, shield and repulsor blasts colliding with the architect's defenses. The force of their combined power echoed through the battlefield, sending shockwaves that disrupted the encroaching darkness. The architect staggered, their dark energy flickering like a candle in the wind. "Now!" Scarlet Witch shouted, channeling her energy into a concentrated burst aimed at the architect. The hex she cast illuminated the area with a brilliant light, pushing back the shadows momentarily. It disrupted the architect's control, and the darkness began to recede. The architect's face twisted with rage. "You think your light can banish me? You are mistaken." They extended their hands, drawing on the remnants of their power, their fingers crackling with dark energy as they unleashed a wave of shadows that surged toward the Avengers. But Thor, with Mjolnir raised high, called upon the storm. "You will not take this day from us," he bellowed, launching Mjolnir into the air. The hammer soared above the battlefield, surrounded by a tempest of lightning, and then came crashing down toward the architect. The force of the strike collided with the architect, a blinding flash of light erupting from the impact. The shockwave rippled through the battlefield, scattering shadows and sending the architect reeling back. For a brief moment, it seemed as if the darkness would finally be vanquished, but the architect, drawing on their last reserves of power, fought back with a defiance that was palpable. The architect's voice rose above the din of battle. "You think this will stop me? I will not be defeated by mere mortals." They summoned tendrils of darkness, weaving them into a protective barrier. The shadows writhed and pulsed, shielding the architect from the onslaught. As the dust settled, Captain America seized the moment. "We can't let them regroup." He charged forward, his shield raised high, determined to breach the architect's defenses. Iron Man followed closely, deploying a swarm of drones that spiraled through the air, targeting the shadows. The drones fired energy blasts, illuminating the darkness with bursts of light. Scarlet Witch, sensing the shift in the battle, concentrated her powers, feeling the energy coursing through her veins. "We need to disrupt their focus," she yelled, weaving her spells to amplify the light around them. She unleashed a wave of hex energy that surged forward, breaking the grip of darkness as it collided with the Architect's protective barrier. The Architect struggled against the onslaught, their control faltering. The shadows surrounding them began to dissipate, flickering like dying embers. Captain America pressed the attack, pushing forward with unwavering determination. He could feel the tide turning, the power of unity and camaraderie fueling their resolve. Black Widow and Viper seized their chance, darting in and out of the shadows. They launched a coordinated assault, delivering precise strikes aimed at the Architect's vulnerabilities. Their movements were fluid, a dance of combat that showcased their training and skill. They aimed to exploit the Architect's momentary distraction, striking where it hurt the most. The Architect's voice turned desperate, a mixture of anger and fear. "You will pay for this insolence. I will not be denied." They summoned the last of their strength, a massive wave of dark energy that surged outward, threatening to engulf the Avengers completely. But Captain America stood firm, his shield raised against the approaching darkness. Together, he shouted, his voice cutting through the chaos. The Avengers rallied around him, their powers combining into a single force of light and determination. Iron Man's repulsor blasts joined with Scarlet Witch's hex, and Thor's lightning illuminated the battlefield as they charged forward. As the light clashed against the darkness, a brilliant explosion erupted, engulfing the Architect in a radiant burst. The shadows that had once threatened to consume the heroes began to unravel, disintegrating under the weight of their combined strength. The Architect, caught in the maelstrom of energy, felt their power slipping away. "No, this cannot be. I am more than you can comprehend." Their voice echoed through the chaos, but even as they shouted, their form began to flicker and fade, the darkness that had once been their strength now turning against them. In that moment of crisis, the bonds forged by the Avengers shone the brightest. They pushed through the final remnants of the Architect's power, driven by a shared purpose. The battlefield was alive with energy, the clash of light and dark resonating in the hearts of every hero present. Finally, with a resounding explosion of light, the Architect was overwhelmed, their form collapsing under the weight of the Avengers' resolve. The dark energy erupted in a final burst before dissipating into nothingness, leaving only the echoes of battle in its wake. The battlefield fell silent, the oppressive darkness lifting as the light of the Avengers enveloped the area. Each hero stood in the aftermath, breathing heavily, the realization of their victory washing over them. They had faced an unimaginable threat and emerged not just as individuals, but as a united front, a force of hope against the darkness. Captain America lowered his shield, his eyes scanning the horizon as the sun began to break through the clouds. "We did it," he said, his voice filled with relief and pride. "Together, we can face anything." Scarlet Witch, still surrounded by the remnants of her magic, felt a weight lift from her shoulders. "We've proven that unity is our greatest strength," she replied, her voice steady. Iron Man, hovering above, began to land, a grin breaking across his face. "Not bad for a day's work, huh? Just another Tuesday for the Avengers." The camaraderie among them was palpable, and the bond they shared had grown even stronger in the face of adversity. As they surveyed the wreckage, the heroes recognized that while the battle had been won, the war against darkness would always loom on the horizon. But for now, they had triumphed, and together, they would continue to fight for justice, for each other, and for those who needed them most.